I shot my father. Not with a gun, hell. That would have been cleaner, but with the truth. Right there in the eulogy. As his polished mahogany casket gleamed under the stained glass windows of St. Mary's in downtown Chicago. Dad wasn't the hero you all think, I said, voice steady as the windy city's winter gale, while my sister Emily gasped and my brother Jack's face turned the color of Lake Michigan fog. The mourners shifted like they'd sat on hot coals, whispers rippling through the pews like contraband cigarettes passed in a back alley. And just like that, before the dirt even hit the grave, my family erased me, cut me out like a bad tattoo, convinced I'd poison the man who'd poisoned us all first. It started 6 months earlier, in the sweltering heat of a July that felt like God's own broiler panned over the South Side. Dad, Robert Bobby Harlan, kingpin of Harlan Investments, the kind of guy who could charm a nun out of her habit and a banker out of his bonus, called me into his corner office on the 47th floor of the Aon Center. The view is killer, endless steel and glass stretching to the horizon, Lake Michigan winking like it knew all our dirty little secrets. I was Peyton Harlan, the good daughter, the fixer, the one who handled the family business messes so Emily could play socialite in Lincoln Park and Jack could chase skirts and startups in Wicker Park. At 28, I'd already clawed my way through Northwestern's business school on scholarships and side hustles, only to end up as Dad's shadow accountant, balancing books that looked more like a mob ledger than a legit portfolio. Peyton, kiddo, he said, leaning back in his leather throne, cigar smoke curling like a noose. We got a problem. Big one. His eyes, those sharp blue Harlan eyes we all inherited, darted to the door like he expected the feds to kick it in. Turns out, he wasn't wrong to worry. Harlan Investments had been cooking the books for years, shell companies in the Caymans, inflated assets from ghost real estate deals in Cabrini Green ruins. Dad had skimmed millions, funneled it into offshore accounts to keep the family afloat after Mom's shopping habit blew through the trust fund. But the IRS was sniffing, and the only way to dodge the audit was a fall guy. Me. You take the hit on this one, he said, sliding a folder across the desk. Forged emails, backdated transfers, all pinned on me. The rogue junior exec who'd gone off the rails. Sign here, and I'll make it right. You'll do 6 months probation, maybe a slap on the wrist. Family looks out for family, right? I stared at the papers, my stomach twisting like a South Side alley fight. Emily was pregnant with her third. Jack's latest venture was tanking. And Mom, God love her, was one Xanax away from a psych ward. What choice did I have? I signed, thinking it'd be a blip. A bad dream after a Lakeview bender. But Dad lied. The fallout hit like a Blackhawks playoff riot. The feds raided our Gold Coast brownstone at dawn. Cuffs on my wrists before the coffee brewed. Embezzlement. Wire fraud, the agent barked, while Emily sobbed in her silk robe and Jack muttered about lawyers. Dad played the shocked patriarch, testifying that I'd acted alone, his voice cracking just enough for the cameras outside the courthouse. The plea deal? 2 years in Logan Correctional. A black mark that tanked my career before it started. I rotted in that women's pen for 18 months, trading Northwestern connections for prison yard poker and GED classes for the lifers. Letters from home dried up after the first month, Emily's excuses about the kids, Jack's radio silence. Mom scrawled, "We're praying for you, dear." Parole came on a crisp October morning, the gates clanging shut behind me like a bad breakup. I hitched a Greyhound back to Chicago, $200 in my pocket from a prison job stitching state-issued jumpsuits. The family? They'd moved on without a backward glance. Dad spun the narrative. Poor Bobby. Betrayed by his own blood. Harlan Investments rebounded. Fat on bailout loans and Dad's silver tongue. Emily's hubby, that trust fund drone from the North Shore, got a board seat. Jack launched Harlan Tech, some app for flipping foreclosures in Pilsen. And me? I crashed on a cousin's couch in Bridgeport, slinging lattes at a dive coffee shop off Halstead, dodging bill collectors and the occasional "Hey, aren't you that Harlan crook?" from nosy locals. Dad's cancer diagnosis dropped like a brick through a Lakeshore Drive windshield. Stage 4. Pancreatic. The bastard's revenge for all those Cubans and steaks. He called me from his hospice bed in Rush University Medical Center. Voice a rasp over the morphine drip. "Peyton. Need to see you." Loose ends. I went. Against every screaming instinct. The room smelled of bleach and regret. Monitors beeping like a countdown. He looked small, shrunken under the starched sheets. But those eyes? Still scheming. "I fixed it," he wheezed, pressing a thumb drive into my palm. "Passwords. Accounts. Yours now if you play nice." Play nice? After he hung me out to dry? But blood's thicker than the Chicago River, they say. I pocketed it, nodded, and walked out into the November chill, the drive burning a hole in my jeans. The funeral was a circus, black limos snaking through the loop, paparazzi flashing like fireflies on steroids. St. Mary's overflowed with Dad's cronies, aldermen with guilty grins, brokers nursing hangovers, a senator who'd once golfed with him at Medina. Emily wailed theatrically. Jack stood stone-faced in his Tom Ford suit. Mom clutched her rosary like a lifeline. I slipped in late. Black dress from a thrift shop on Milwaukee Avenue. Hair pulled back tight as a promise. When the priest nodded my way for the eulogy, Dad's last gift, scribbled in his will, I stepped up, heart pounding like a South Side drumline. That's when I dropped the bomb. Not the whole truth, not yet, but enough to crack the facade. Robert Harlan built an empire on lies, I said, voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. He taught us loyalty, but his version meant taking the fall so he could rise again. I know, because I was the one he buried alive. Gasps rippled. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Jack's jaw clenched like he was chewing glass. Mom just stared, vacant as a Magnificent Mile mannequin. The priest cleared his throat, but I wasn't done. Today, we mourn the man. But tomorrow, the truth sets us all free, or burns the house down. They scattered me like ashes in the wind after that. Emily cornered me in the receiving line, hissing, "You selfish bitch, Dad's dead. And you're grandstanding." Jack texted once, "Stay away." For Mom. Mom? She didn't even look at me. Eyes glassy from whatever cocktail the doctor prescribed. By the limo ride to the cemetery, I was persona non grata, uninvited to the repast at the Palmer House, blocked on every phone. I stood at the graveside alone, watching the dirt pile on, the priest's words blurring in the sleet. Betrayal? It stung deeper than the cell block cold. But as the crowd thinned, Dad's lawyer, old Mr. Whitaker from Whitaker and Sons on Michigan Avenue, sidled up, umbrella in hand. "Miss Harlan," he murmured, pressing a crisp envelope into my gloved fingers. "The reading's tomorrow. 10 a.m. sharp. And Peyton, your father's will. It's a doozy." I walked home that night through the loop's neon haze, the envelope heavy as a loaded .38. Snow flurried like confetti from a bad divorce, sticking to my lashes. The thumb drive? I'd cracked it weeks ago on a library computer in Humboldt Park, codes to $4.2 million in hidden assets, laundered through crypto wallets and a shell in Delaware. Dad's insurance policy, he'd called it in his final ramble. But the real power? It wasn't the money. It was the ledger, the digital one, buried in encrypted folders, detailing every dirty deal, every bribe to City Hall, every framed job, including mine. The family thought they'd buried me with him. Little did they know, I was the ghost rattling their chains. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving, the kind of Chicago winter that seeps into your bones like regret. I scrubbed up in the cousin's leaky bathroom, borrowed a pantsuit that hung loose on my post-prison frame, and cabbed it to Whitaker's office. The building loomed like a granite tombstone on Wacker Drive, all brass plaques and hushed elevators. I arrived early, nursing a styrofoam coffee from the lobby kiosk, the envelope unopened in my purse. Why hadn't I peeked? Call it superstition. Or maybe the last shred of that dutiful daughter clinging like rust. The conference room was a study in old money, walnut paneling, a crystal decanter of scotch that probably cost more than my parole officer's yearly salary, and a long table that could seat the Last Supper twice over. They were all there when I walked in. Emily, perched like a queen bee in pearls and cashmere, her belly just starting to show with number 4, Jack, scrolling his phone with that perpetual smirk, legs crossed in bespoke slacks. Mom, frail in a Chanel suit, her hands trembling as she folded a lace hanky. Whitaker, silver-haired and spectacled, nodded me to the head seat. Peyton. Right on time. Emily's eyes narrowed to slits. What's she doing here? This is family business. Jack snorted, not looking up. Yeah. Wit. Glitch in the invite. Mom just whimpered softly, like a kicked pup. Whitaker cleared his throat, the sound like gravel in a blender. Mr. Harlan was explicit. All heirs present. Heirs. The word hung heavy, laced with the unspoken, including the black sheep. He unsealed the will with a flourish, pages rustling like dry leaves in Grant Park. The preliminaries droned, bequests to charities, the cabin in Door County to Jack, the Gold Coast condo to Emily. Mom got the jewelry and a trust for discretionary needs. Standard stuff. The kind that keeps estate lawyers billing hours. Then Whitaker paused, adjusting his glasses. And to Peyton Harlan, my daughter. The room went still as a power outage. Emily leaned forward, Jack's phone forgotten. Did I bequeath controlling interest in Harlan Investments, 51% of shares, along with executive authority over all assets, including the recently transferred offshore holdings. You could have heard a pin drop into the Chicago River from there. Emily's face drained to chalk. What? That's impossible. Dad promised me the firm. Jack slammed his palm down. Bullshit. I sunk my last dime into that tech pivot. He can't just, Mom gasped, clutching her pearls. Bobby. Why? Whitaker held up a hand, voice steady as Lake Shore Drive traffic. There's more. A codicil, to be read in private with Miss Peyton following this assembly. Private? The word ignited the fuse. Emily lunged across the table, nails like talons. You poisoned him against us. What did you do? Peyton? Whisper lies in his ear while he was doped up. Jack joined in, voice rising to a Luke Barker's pitch. She's the reason we're here. Dad said she was unstable. A liability. Mom wailed. My baby girl. Not like this. Whitaker called security, two burly types in ill-fitting blazers, who ushered them out amid a cacophony of curses and sobs. Emily spat. "You'll regret this, you homewrecker," as the doors clicked shut. Alone with Whitaker, the air thickened like pre-storm humidity. He poured 2 fingers of scotch, slid one my way. "Your father was a complicated man, Peyton. This. It's his atonement." Atonement? I laughed, bitter as black coffee. "Or his last con." He slid another envelope across, thick, sealed with wax. "Read it. Then decide." Inside, letters, emails, the works. Dad confessing to the frame job, bribing the prosecutor, even forging my signature deeper than I'd known. But the kicker? He'd done it to protect them. Emily's gambling debts to the outfit. Jack's coke-fueled crash that killed a pedestrian, covered up as a hit-and-run. Mom's pill-popping spiral that nearly OD'd the housekeeper. I'd taken the fall not just for Dad, but for all of them. The ledger on the drive? Proof of it all. Power. It hummed in my veins like the L train at rush hour. I could expose them, leak the files to the Sun-Times, watch the Harlan name crumble like a bad batch of deep dish crust. Or wield it, bend them to my will, make them pay in installments of groveling and gold. Revenge isn't a sprint, it's a marathon through the badlands of the soul. And mine? It was just gearing up. The days blurred into a haze of board meetings and backroom deals. The kind that make Chicago politics look like a kindergarten tea party. Harlan Investments hummed under my thumb. 51% meant I called the shots. Vetoed Jack's pie-in-the-sky expansions. Slashed Emily's consulting fees that were really just spa days in Door County. I moved into Dad's old office, the one with the panoramic view, and hung my prison-issue calendar on the wall as a reminder, time served. But the sentence? Ongoing. Mom called once, voice quivering over the line from her assisted living in Evanston. "Peyton, honey, can we talk about your father?" I hung up. Not yet. Let her stew in the silence, like I'd stewed in that 6x8 cell. Emily struck first. Of course. A week after the reading, she cornered me at the Gauge on Wabash, that dimly lit Irish pub where power brokers nursed pints and grudges. I was midway through a plowman's lunch when she swept in, designer coat billowing like a cape. Her new lawyer in tow, a slick weasel from Kirkland and Ellis named Hargrove. "We need to discuss the will," she said, sliding into the booth without invitation, her perfume cloying as a funeral lily. Hargrove cleared his throat, laying out folders like a poker hand. "Undue influence. Miss Harlan. Your father's faculties were compromised. We can contest, get you a settlement, keep the peace." Peace? I sipped my Guinness, letting the foam linger on my lip. Peace is for suckers. Emily. Like the ones who bet the house on Daddy's lies. Her eyes flashed, Harlan steel. "You think you're the victim? I carried this family while you were vacationing upstate. The kids, the house, the endless charity galas to keep Dad's name shiny. Vacationing." The word landed like a sucker punch. I leaned in, voice low. "And I carried the bars. Sis. 2 years for your poker nights in River North. The ones where you lost $200K to bookies who don't take Amex." She blanched. But Hargrove jumped in. "All legalese and loopholes. Irrelevant. The codicil, private reading? That's fishy. We demand a copy." I laughed, signaling the waiter for the check. "Demand all you want. but touch this firm, and those irrelevant details hit the Tribune's front page. Your hubby?
Disbarred.
Your little ones? Fatherless. It was a bluff, half.
Anyway.
The ledger was locked in a safe deposit box at Chase on State Street. But the threat? It was oxygen to me now. Emily stormed out, coat flapping. But I saw the crack, fear, raw as a fresh tattoo. Jack was subtler. The snake. He invited me to his startup launch at a WeWork in the West Loop, free-flowing IPAs and TED Talk wannabes pitching apps for everything from dog walking to doom scrolling. I showed black jeans and a Harlan Investments blazer, blending in like a wolf at a sheep shear. He clapped me on the back. All bro hugs and water under the bridge. Pay. Over craft cocktails. He pitched his angle. Merge Harlan Tech into the mothership. Give him a VP slot. We're family. Peyton. Dad would have wanted us united. United. The word tasted like the flat beer at a Cubs doubleheader. I played along, nodding through his PowerPoint drivel blockchain this, AI that, until the after-party thinned.
Then,
in a quiet corner by the exposed brick, I dropped it. United.
Huh?
Like when you let me rot for that Pilsen crash. Pedestrian's name was Maria Ruiz, widow. 2 kids. You walked because Dad paid off the CPD. His face went slack. IPA sloshing. How? The thumb drive. I didn't say. I'd hacked his emails too. Cross-referenced with the ledger. I know everything.
Jack.
Your side hustle with the Colombians, funneling product through those flips. Join the merger. And maybe I keep it zipped. He stammered, eyes darting like a cornered rat. You're bluffing. Blackmail's a felony. Sis. I smiled, cold as a January gale off the lake. So's vehicular homicide. Your call. He caved. Of course, sign the papers by dawn. Harlan Tech absorbed, his ego deflated like a popped balloon at a block party. But revenge? It's addictive. A slow burn that chars the user too. Nights. I'd pace my new loft in River North, Dad's parting gift. All exposed beams and skyline views, staring at the ledger files on my laptop. Expose them. And the firm tanks. Jobs lost in the projects. Suppliers stiffed from Bronzeville to back of the yards. Protect them. And I'm complicit, the warden in my own prison. The betrayal gnawed deeper than solitary. Dad hadn't just framed me, he'd woven me into the web. Made me the spider and the fly. Mom's summons came via courier, a cream envelope with her monogram. Delivered to the office like a debutante's calling card. Please, darling.
4T.
The Drake. Tomorrow. The Drake Hotel. That gilded relic on Michigan Avenue. Where flappers once foxtrotted and now influencers posed for the gram. I almost binned it, but curiosity, or masochism, won. Afternoon tea was a farce. Finger sandwiches untouched. Scones crumbling like our lineage. Mom looked spectral. Powder caked over new lines. Her hand steady only on the teacup. Peyton, she whispered, glancing at the white-gloved waiter. I need to tell you. About the night you were born. The night I was born. It hit like a rogue wave off Navy Pier. Not the sanitized story of a blizzard and a cab to Northwestern Memorial. But the real one. Dad's indiscretion. A cocktail waitress from the pump room. A hasty marriage to cover the scandal. You weren't planned,
dear.
But you were mine. Mine. The word cracked something in me. Turns out, The frame job wasn't just protection, it was erasure. Dad had whispered to the lawyers. Floated rumors. Peyton. The bastard. Unstable. Better off sidelined. Emily and Jack? They knew. Bought the lie, because it kept their world spinning. Mom? She dosed herself into denial. Popping Valium like Tic-Tacs to forget the girl who'd upended her Gold Coast fairy tale. Why tell me now? I pressed, voice tight as a garrote. She reached across, frail fingers on mine. Because the will. It's not just shares. There's a letter. From him.
To you.
Whitaker had held it back, the final twist in Dad's confessional carousel. I left the Drake in a daze, hailing a cab through the magnificent mile throng, the city pulsing indifferent around me. Black Friday sales screamed from every storefront, shoppers elbowing for deals while I clutched the unopened missive in my coat pocket. Betrayal layered on betrayal. I wasn't just the fall guy, I was the family secret, the stain they'd all help scrub. That night, rain lashed the loft windows like accusations. I poured a tumbler of Dad's Macallan, stashed in the credenza, and slit the envelope. His scrawl. Shaky but unmistakable. Peyton, you were the best of us. The one who saw the rot. I framed you to save them, but it broke me too. The ledger? Burn it. Or use it. But know this. Emily's baby isn't her husband's. Jack's app? Funded by blood money from that crash. And me? I loved you most, even if I showed it worst. Forgive. If you can. Or don't.
Bobby.
Forgive? The word curdled like spoiled milk. I hurled the glass at the wall, amber shards raining like tears. The power in the will wasn't shares or secrets, it was choice. Expose. And shatter them. Emily's marriage implodes. Kids in therapy. Jack's empire crumbles. Colombians calling collections, Mom. The final straw. Straitjacket bound. But hold it. And I'm the liar. Schemer. The monster in the mirror. The antagonist? It wasn't Dad anymore. It was me. Flipping the script. Deciding who burned. Words spread like wildfire through the family grapevine, cousins texting. Aunts' voicemails laced with, "What have you done?" Emily escalated, filing the contest in Cook County Superior. Hargrove's motion dripping with psych evals painting me as delusional, vengeful. Jack played both sides, leaking to Crane's Chicago business that internal strife threatened the firm. Mom retreated to her Evanston cocoon. A single postcard. Proud of you.
Still.
Proud. The irony bit deeper than a Lakeview winter. I lawyered up my own shark, a bulldog named Rivera from a Pilsen firm. All tattoos under the pinstripes and a Rolodex of judge favors. Depositions dragged. Emily on the stand, tear-streaked. Swearing Dad feared me. Jack. Smug. Claiming sibling rivalry gone toxic. I held steady. The ledger my ace. Unplayed.
No comment il décès.
Voice even as the L's rumble. But inside, a storm. Winds howling doubts. Was this revenge? Or just trading cages? The board whispered mutiny. Suppliers hedged bets. The Sun-Times ran, Harlan heiress, saint or sinner, with my mug from the arrest splashed large. Climax brewed at the holiday gala, Harlan Investments' annual bash at the Art Institute. All twinkling lights and tuxes amid the Monets. I arrived solo. Red gown from Macy's clearance hugging curves I'd earned in prison yoga. Hair loose like a challenge. They were there, Emily. Arm candy hubby oblivious, Jack. Schmoozing donors with champagne flutes, Mom. escorted by a nurse, looking like a ghost in Da Vinci. The air crackled. Polite nods masking knives. Emily sidled up during the string quartet's rendition of White Christmas. "Truce," she murmured, eyes on the crowd. "For the holidays." Mom's fading. Fading. The word pierced. I nodded, glass clinking hers. But Jack? He waited till the toasts, microphone in hand at the podium. "To family," he boomed, smile shark-wide. "The ones who stay, no matter the cost." Then, the gut punch. "And to Peyton, may she find peace beyond these walls." The room tittered, donors shifting awkward. It was the flip, his final play, painting me the outsider, the threat. Rage surged, hot as a shot of Malort. I grabbed the mic, voice slicing the jazz. "To family, the liars, the cheats, the ones who let blood rot in a cell while they toasted success." Gasps. Clinking silverware still. "Dads will give me power.
But tonight?
I give you truth." The ledger, projected on the massive screen behind, hacked in via Rivera's TechWiz Kid. Files unspooling. Emily's debts. Jack's crash logs. Dad's bribes. Chaos erupted, screams, shattering glass. Emily fainting into hubby's arms. Jack lunged, but security, my hires now, held him. "Mom?" She rose. Slow. Eyes clear for the first time. "Enough." Peyton. Her voice. Frail but steel. The room polarized. Donors fleeing. Allies murmuring support. Strangers filming for TikTok virality. Right or wrong? No lines. Just shards. The fallout hit like a Category 5 off Lake Michigan. Waves of subpoenas. Headlines screaming, "Harlan Dynasty implodes, siblings at war," paparazzi swarming my loft like pigeons on a Clark Street bench. Emily's hubby filed for divorce by dawn. Custody battle looming uglier than a Bears-Packers rivalry. Her empire of socialite whispers evaporated. Sponsors ghosting faster than a bad Tinder date. Jack's app tanked overnight. Downloads plummeted. Investors bailed. The Colombians? Let's just say his burner phone rang off the hook from numbers with +57 country codes. "Mom?" She checked into a discreet clinic in the north suburbs. "Resting," her nurse confided over hushed calls. The firm teetered, shares dipping like a Southside dive bar stock. But I held the line, layoffs minimized. Pivots to green energy deals in Englewood to salvage some soul.
Me?
I became the villain of my own story. Or the hero, depending on the outlet. Cranes hailed Peyton Harlan, the reckoning CEO, while the Tribune sneered, vindictive heiress torpedoes family legacy. Protests even popped up, ironic. Given the Ledger's revelations, feminists chanting sisters. Not snakes, outside the Aeon Center. Jack's bro dudes picketing with signs. Peyton equals poison. Polarized didn't cover it. Water cooler debates raged from Wrigleyville bars to corporate water coolers. Folks splitting hairs on Betrayal's gray zones. Was I avenging the innocent, or dragging the guilty through the mud? Splattering the unwitting? Emily's kids, innocents in the crossfire, stared from tabloid glossies, wide-eyed and confused. No winners, just survivors limping from the blast. Whitaker called a week in, voice gravel over the secure line. The contest's dead.
Peyton.
Emily dropped it. Hargrove cited new evidence as too damaging. Damaging. Understatement of the year. But the old man had more. Dad's final play. The one he'd buried deepest. A second codicil. Biological records.
Si elle est tina.
Biological. My gut twisted. Mom's tea time bombshell echoing. I met him at a nondescript diner off Archer Avenue. The kind with formica counters and pie that could double as hockey pucks. Over coffee black, as my mood. He slid a manila folder. Your father. He wasn't the father. Not the father. The words landed soft, then detonated. DNA tests. Affidavits from a PI Dad hired decades back. I was Peyton's mine. Yes, but not Harlan blood. Conceived during Dad's pump room fling. But the waitress? She'd named a different man on the birth cert. Some jazz musician who'd ghosted before the ink dried. Dad married Mom to hush it. Adopted me legal-like. But the secret festered. Why frame me deepest? Because I was the outsider. The loose thread he could snip without unraveling the weave. The codicil? It disinherited me. Shares reverting to a trust for Emily and Jack. Contingent on restitution to Peyton Harlan. In full. For services rendered. Services. My life. Bartered like a bad debt. Twist? It gutted me worse than the cuffs. Power in the will? A mirage. Smoke and mirrors from a dying con. I could have fought, lawyers on retainers. Appeals to the Illinois bar, but what for? The firm was a hollow crown. The family a house of cards I'd toppled for spite. I drove to Logan that weekend. The prison's razor wire glinting under a rare sun. Visited Maria Ruiz's sister, found her through public records. A teacher in Little Village with Ruiz's kids in tow. Handed over an envelope. $50K from Dad's slush fund. Anonymous. For Maria, I said. The girl, maybe 12, hugged me fierce. Thank you, miss. Innocent eyes. Unscarred. Small redemption. But it stuck. Emily reached out next, not a call, but a letter. Postmarked from a rehab in Scottsdale. Scrawled. Shaky. I knew about the baby. Dad's baby. Not yours in his eyes. But you were always my sister.
Pay.
Forgive me? The kids ask about Aunt Pay.
Forgive.
The word mocked from Dad's ghost. I wrote back, halfway. Come home when you're ready.
Jack.
He turned state's evidence. Flipping on the Colombians for a reduced sentence, 5 years at Statesville. App dreams deferred. Last I heard, he was penning a tell-all from Gen Pop. Chapters titled Betrayed by Blood. Mom rallied. Discharged to a condo in Oak Park. Therapy sessions and AA meetings her new boardroom. We met for brunch at and Sather's, cinnamon rolls gooey as apologies. I chose wrong, she said, eyes wet. Every time. I squeezed her hand. Me too.
Mom.
Starting now. The board ousted me gentle-like. A golden parachute. 2 mil and a corner office legend. I cashed out. Bought a fixer-upper in Pilsen. Murals on the walls. Tamales from the corner bodega. Started a consultancy. Harlan and Honest. Auditing firms for the skeletons Dad loved. No empires. Just truths unearthed. One ledger at a time. Emily moved in for a spell. Post-rehab glow and twins in tow. Her fourth.
A boy.
Named after no one but hope. Jack wrote from inside. Pages of regret and recipes for prison hooch. We visited. Awkward as a family reunion at Comiskey. But real. Ending? Not tidy. Not Hollywood fade out over the bean. The twist lingers. Was Dad's frame a mercy? Sparing me the Harlan curse? Or the ultimate betrayal? Denying my blood, right to the rot? Readers, hell. Even me, still argue it over IPAs at the local. Happy? In patches. like sunlight through the L tracks. Tragic? In the scars. The what-ifs echoing like blues from a Maxwell Street ghost. Revenge taught me, power's not in the will, or the secrets spilled. It's in the choice to rebuild from the rubble, one controversial brick at a time. Chicago don't sleep.
And neither do I.
But damn if the view ain't clearer now.